Get your life together. You are becoming a joke to everyone." Those words cut deep, especially coming from Ethan, my only brother. We had always had a complicated relationship, but hearing him mock me so publicly at his own promotion party made something inside me snap. Little did he know that the company he was so proudly climbing the ladder in, the company he was celebrating a promotion within, was actually mine. Before I share how my brother's face changed when he realized whose company he had been working for all along, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, and hit subscribe to join others who know that success is best served with a side of patience. I grew up in Seattle with my older brother Ethan. The 4-year age gap between us might not seem much, but it created a world of difference in how we were perceived and treated. From the beginning, our family had a clear picture of what success looked like: prestigious degrees, corporate careers, and the traditional markers of achievement that our parents valued above all else. Ethan fit perfectly into that mold. He was the golden child, athletic, charismatic, and academically gifted. By the time he was in high school, his trophy shelf was overflowing with awards from debate tournaments, baseball championships, and academic competitions. Our parents beamed with pride at every parent-teacher conference, and his achievements were the main topic at every family gathering. I was different. While Ethan thrived in the spotlight, I preferred working behind the scenes. My strengths lay in creativity, innovation, and quiet determination, qualities that often went unnoticed or underappreciated in our household. When I would share ideas about new technologies or business concepts at dinner, my parents would nod politely before turning to Ethan to ask about his latest accomplishment. "Gerard just needs to find his path," my mother would say, whenever relatives asked about my future plans. The implication was always clear: I was the one they worried about, the uncertain variable in their otherwise perfect family equation. By the time I turned 18, the paths Ethan and I would take were already mapped out in everyone's minds. Ethan had followed the perfect trajectory, graduating high school as valedictorian and heading to a prestigious business school on scholarship. I enrolled in college too, a solid state university, but something felt off from the start. While Ethan thrived in his business program, I found myself skipping classes to work on app ideas in my dorm room. 2 semesters in, I made the decision that would become the first major rift between me and my family. I dropped out to pursue my entrepreneurial ideas full-time. "You are throwing your life away," my father said when I broke the news over Thanksgiving dinner. "Look at your brother. Top of his class internship lined up at Morgan Stanley. That is what commitment looks like." Ethan sat silently during this exchange, but the slight smile on his face said everything. He enjoyed his position as the family success story, and my deviation from the expected path only solidified his status. The years that followed only widened the gap between us. Ethan graduated with honors, landed a job at a top financial firm, and began his ascent up the corporate ladder. Meanwhile, I was living the typical struggling entrepreneur life, working odd jobs to fund my startup attempts, moving between cheap apartments, and facing failure after failure. My first startup was a peer-to-peer tutoring platform that collapsed after 6 months, when we could not secure additional funding. The second was an innovative food delivery concept that failed when our main restaurant partner pulled out. The third was closest to success, a specialized project management tool that gained some traction but ultimately could not compete with established players in the market. Each failure taught me invaluable lessons about business technology and myself. I learned how to build more efficient code, how to really understand user needs, how to manage limited resources, and most importantly, how to get up after being knocked down. But from the outside, especially from my family's perspective, I was just failing repeatedly while Ethan continued to soar. Family dinners became battlegrounds of subtle put-downs and uncomfortable comparisons. "Have you thought about applying for a position at my company?" Ethan would ask with fake concern. "They have great entry-level positions for people still figuring things out." After my third startup failed, I hit a mental low point. I spent weeks reassessing everything, questioning if my parents and Ethan had been right all along. Then during a late-night coding session fueled by too much coffee, I had the breakthrough that would change everything, the idea for what would become Nexus Core Technologies. The concept was elegant in its simplicity, a platform that bridged the gap between legacy enterprise systems and modern cloud infrastructure, allowing companies to modernize their operations without the typical high costs. Disruption. I knew it had potential, but I also knew that I needed to approach this differently than my previous attempts. This time, I made a decision that would prove crucial. I would operate in stealth mode, especially from my family. No more sharing my ideas at dinner to be met with skeptical looks. No more updates about my progress that would only fuel Ethan's condescension. I would work silently, build diligently, and let the results speak for themselves when the time was right. I also made another significant choice. I would use my middle name as my professional surname. Instead of Gerard Williams, I became known professionally as Gerard Foster. This small change gave me the privacy I needed and ensured that when I finally succeeded, it would be on my own merit, not influenced by family connections either positively or negatively. Securing initial funding was brutal. I lived on ramen and coffee, working 18-hour days from my studio apartment. I pitched to 67 investors before finally finding 2 angel investors who believed in both the idea and my ability to execute it. Their seed money allowed me to hire a small team and develop our first viable product. While I built my company brick by brick, Ethan continued his rapid ascent through the corporate world. He moved from finance to tech, landed increasingly prestigious positions, and never missed an opportunity to contrast his real career with what he perceived as my directionless existence. "Still working on your little computer projects?" he asked during a Christmas gathering 5 years after I had dropped out. By then, Nexus Core had secured Series A funding and was growing steadily, but no one in my family knew. "Something like that," I replied, swallowing both my pride and the truth. The growing divide between us was painful, but also motivating. Every dismissive comment from Ethan, or disappointed look from my parents, fueled my determination to prove them wrong, not by telling them, but by building something undeniably successful. 7 years after dropping out of college, Nexus Core Technologies had grown from my studio apartment project into a mid-sized tech firm with over 300 employees. We had secured Series C funding, opened offices in Seattle and Austin, and counted several Fortune 500 companies among our clients. While not yet a household name, we were respected within the industry as an innovative problem solver for enterprise-level challenges. Throughout this growth, I maintained my privacy. Very few people knew that Gerard Foster, the founder and CEO of Nexus Core, was actually Gerard Williams. I had my reasons for keeping this separation, partly personal pride, partly strategic business thinking. I wanted Nexus Core to succeed on its own merits, not become fodder for tech gossip columns about family dynamics. Then came the day that changed everything. I was reviewing incoming applications for our expanded sales division when a familiar name jumped out at me: Ethan Williams. My brother had applied for a senior position at my company without having any idea who owned it. The coincidence was almost too perfect to believe. Ethan had been working for one of our competitors, and according to his resume, had compiled an impressive track record in enterprise software sales. On paper, he was exactly the kind of candidate we were looking for. I sat in my office for hours that night, wrestling with what to do. The ethical thing would be to recuse myself from the hiring process entirely. The petty thing would be to reject his application outright. I chose a third path. I would let him be hired on merit alone, but maintain my distance and see what happened. I forwarded his application to our HR director with a neutral comment about his qualifications matching our needs. I then restructured our reporting lines to ensure that if hired, Ethan would not report directly to me or anyone who knew about our relationship. I would be able to observe his performance from afar, without direct interaction. 2 weeks later, Ethan was hired. I watched from the shadows as my brother began working for my company, completely unaware of the connection. I had my assistant set up a system for regular performance updates about his department, allowing me to monitor his progress without revealing my identity. The reports were illuminating. Ethan was indeed talented. His sales numbers were consistently strong, and he had a gift for explaining complex technical benefits to non-technical clients. But there were also concerning patterns that reminded me of our childhood. He took credit for team accomplishments, while deflecting blame for setbacks. He was charming to superiors, but often dismissive of subordinates. The golden child behavior I had grown up with was playing out in our professional environment. This created a growing inner conflict for me. As CEO, I valued Ethan's contributions to the company. As his brother, I was disappointed by his interpersonal approach. And hanging over everything was the ticking time bomb of the eventual revelation that would have to come. There was one close call about 8 months after Ethan joined Nexus Core. He was presenting at an all-hands meeting, where I was scheduled to make rare appearance. I had to fabricate a last-minute emergency to avoid being in the same room with him. The incident forced me to realize that I could not maintain this charade indefinitely. Then came the promotion discussion. Ethan had been with us for just over a year, and his department head was recommending him for advancement to a director-level position. The decision ultimately required my approval. I called a private meeting with our COO Diana, one of the few people who knew about my connection to Ethan. "If he was anyone else, would you promote him?" Diana asked after I had spent 20 minutes outlining my concerns. "Objectively, yes," I admitted. "His numbers are excellent. The team produces results. But there are leadership-style issues that worry me. So address those separately," she advised. "But make the promotion decision based on performance metrics, not personal history." After much deliberation, I approved the promotion. It was the right business decision, even if it complicated my personal situation. With the promotion came an invitation to a celebration party, a standard practice for director-level advancements at Nexus Core. I knew I should avoid it, but something in me decided it was time to attend incognito, as simply Gerard the investor, rather than the founder. The week before the party, my parents insisted on having a family dinner to celebrate Ethan's success. I agreed, though part of me wanted to finally reveal the truth and end the charade. "Your brother is really making something of himself," my father said as he poured wine. "Senior director at 34. That company is lucky to have him." "Very lucky," I agreed, the irony almost choking me. "You know, Gerard," my mother added, with well-intentioned but misplaced concern, "Ethan might be able to help you get a position there too. Something stable. You have been floating between these startup attempts for so long now." Ethan smiled magnanimously. "I could put in a word. There are some entry-level positions in the support team that would not require much technical background." I bit my tongue so hard I nearly drew blood. For a moment, I considered revealing everything right there at the dinner table. Instead, I simply smiled and said I would think about it. The night of the promotion party arrived, and I felt a knot of anxiety as I entered the upscale venue Ethan had selected for the celebration, paid for by my company, of course. The space was filled with Nexus Core employees, many of whom worked with me daily, but had been instructed to maintain my cover for the evening. I watched Ethan in his element, moving confidently between groups, accepting congratulations, and occasionally glancing in my direction with thinly veiled disdain. Several of my executive team members who knew the truth kept giving me concerned looks, clearly wondering how this precarious situation would unfold. As the evening progressed, I maintained my distance, speaking primarily with people from departments that rarely interacted with Ethan. But the inevitable confrontation grew closer with each passing hour, and each drink Ethan consumed. It happened at the bar. I was ordering a sparkling water when Ethan sidled up next to me already, several drinks in and riding high on the celebration of his promotion. "Well, well, if it is not my little brother," he said loudly enough for nearby conversations to pause. "Come to see what real success looks like." I forced a smile. "Congratulations on the promotion, Ethan. Sounds like you are doing well here." "Doing well," he laughed, clapping a hand on my shoulder too firmly to be friendly. "I am killing it. Senior director after just a year. On track for VP by next quarter, if things keep going my way." People were watching now, including several mid-level managers who reported to Ethan and a few executives who knew my true identity. The discomfort in the room was palpable. "That is great," I said, trying to extract myself. "I should let you get back to your guests." No, stay," Ethan insisted, his voice getting louder. "Everyone, this is my little brother Gerard, the eternal startup guy. How many is it now?" "4 failures. I have been working on various projects," I said neutrally. "Projects?" Ethan scoffed. "That is one way to put it. You know what our dad said last week? He said he has given up hoping you will ever amount to anything significant. Just hopes you will find something steady before you hit 40. The words stung, not because I cared about Ethan's assessment of my career, but because I could absolutely believe our father had said that. "Gerard still lives in that same crappy apartment," Ethan continued, now clearly performing for his audience. "Drives a 10-year-old Honda. Cannot keep a relationship for more than 3 months. But hey, he has his projects right." I noticed Diana, my COO, watching from across the room, her expression asking if I wanted her intervention. I gave her a subtle head shake. This needed to play out. "Look at you," Ethan continued, gesturing at my intentionally understated attire. "You could not even dress properly for my celebration. Get your life together, man. You are becoming a joke to everyone. Wake up." Everyone from high school, everyone from the neighborhood, they all ask about you with this sad look on their faces. It is embarrassing. A tense silence had fallen over our section of the room. Even those who did not know who I really was could sense the inappropriate public humiliation taking place. "I think I am doing okay, Ethan," I said calmly, though my heart was racing. "Okay," he laughed. "You know what? I will throw you a bone. We have some openings in customer support. Entry-level stuff, but it comes with benefits, a steady paycheck. God knows you could use both. What do you say I can put in a word with HR tomorrow? That was the breaking point. The suggestion that I needed his help to get an entry-level position at my own company was too much. What would you say if your founder heard you talk like this? I asked quietly. Ethan laughed. Foster, he never comes to these things. Besides, I am one of his top performers. I could tell Foster himself to hire my brother, and he would probably do it just to keep me happy. I pulled out my phone and sent a pre-composed text to Diana. She nodded from across the room and moved toward the small stage area where a microphone was set up. Ladies and gentlemen, Diana's voice rang out. If I could have your attention, please. We have a special treat tonight. In honor of our newly promoted team members, our founder and CEO has decided to make a rare appearance to offer his personal congratulations. A murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. Ethan's eyes widened with excitement. Foster is here, tonight. He straightened his tie. Where is he? You need to introduce me properly. I stepped away from him without answering, and began making my way toward the stage. People parted for me, those in the know, with knowing smiles, others simply being polite. Please join me in welcoming the founder and CEO of Nexus Core Technologies, Diana continued Gerard Foster. I stepped onto the small platform and took the microphone. The confusion on Ethan's face was beginning to morph into something else, as the impossible truth dawned on him. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began surveying the room. As many of you know, I do not typically attend these functions, but tonight felt special. Nexus Core has grown from a simple idea in my apartment to the company we all know today, because of the talented individuals who choose to bring their skills and dedication to our team. My eyes found Ethan's in the crowd. The color had drained from his face, as he stood frozen in place, the drink in his hand tilting dangerously. I would like to personally congratulate all our recently promoted team members, Lisa Chen in Product Development, Marcus Alvarez in Customer Success, and Ethan Williams in Enterprise Sales. Your contributions to Nexus Core have been significant, and these promotions are well-deserved recognition of your hard work. The glass in Ethan's hand slipped and shattered on the floor, but he seemed not to notice. His mouth hung slightly open, his eyes locked on me with a mixture of shock, confusion, and dawning horror. I continued my brief speech, acknowledging various team achievements and outlining some exciting company developments. All the while, Ethan stood motionless, the pieces falling into place in his mind. As I concluded my remarks and people applauded, I watched Ethan turn abruptly and push his way through the crowd toward the exit. Several of his team members called after him in confusion, but he was already gone. I finished my duties as founder, speaking with various team members and acknowledging their contributions. Many shot curious glances between me and the door Ethan had disappeared through, but no one dared ask the obvious question. An hour later, as the party wound down, I felt lighter than I had in years. The weight of secrecy I had been carrying had finally lifted. Whatever happened next with Ethan, and my family at least, the truth was out. I drove home alone, a mix of vindication and sadness washing over me. The look on Ethan's face would stay with me forever, but so would every dismissive comment, every condescending smile, every time he had made me feel small over the past decade. I had barely kicked off my shoes when the pounding started on my front door. I knew who it was before I opened it. Ethan stood there, his perfectly tailored suit now rumpled, his face flushed with a mix of emotions. 7 years, he said, pushing past me into my living room. 7 fucking years you have been lying to everyone. You are Gerard Foster, the Gerard Foster. And you let me work at your company without telling me I did not make you apply to Nexus Core. I replied calmly. That was pure coincidence. Coincidence. You have been watching me, judging me, probably laughing at me this whole time. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Finding out my little brother has been my boss for a year, about as humiliating as being mocked by my brother at every family gathering for the past decade, I suggested. About as humiliating as being called a joke and a failure to my face at your promotion party at an event my company paid for? Ethan paced my living room, running his hands through his hair. I need a drink, he muttered, heading for my kitchen. As he rummaged through my cabinets, I called our parents. They needed to hear this from me directly, not from an emotional Ethan. Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something important, I said when they answered on speakerphone. You might want to sit down for this. I explained everything, Nexus Core. My role as founder and CEO, the years of secrecy, and the night's revelation. The silence on the other end was deafening. That is not possible, my father finally said. We would have known. How would you have known, Dad? I asked. You never asked about my work. Not really. You asked if I had found a real job yet. You asked when I was going to get serious. But you never actually wanted to hear about my projects. But something this big, my mother began. I tried to tell you in the beginning. I cut in. Remember when I was excited about my new business idea 7 years ago, Dad? You changed the subject to Ethan's promotion. Mom, you asked if this was going to be another phase? After that, I stopped trying. Ethan returned with a glass of whiskey, his expression dark as he heard my conversation with our parents. We are coming over, my father announced. Both of you stay there. An hour later, my small living room held the four of us together, yet miles apart. My parents looked shell-shocked. Ethan simmered with resentment, and I felt strangely calm. The truth, however awkwardly revealed, was finally out. Why all the secrecy, my father demanded. Why not use your real name? Why not tell your family? Because I needed to do this on my own, I answered honestly. Without expectations, without comparisons, without being Ethan's little brother or the Williams boy who dropped out. I needed to succeed or fail based solely on my own merits. But we are your family, my mother protested. Yes. And as my family, you should have supported me regardless of whether I followed Ethan's path or made my own. But you did not. You made it clear that there was only one definition of success that mattered to you, and it looked exactly like Ethan's life. Ethan, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. So, all this time at work, people knew. Your executive team knew I was your brother. Only a select few, I clarified. Diana, my COO. Marcus in legal. A couple others. I set up the reporting structure specifically, so you would not report to anyone who knew. You earned your position and your promotion on merit, Ethan. I never interfered. How magnanimous of you, he said bitterly. So what happens now? You have had your big reveal, humiliated me in front of the entire company. I did not humiliate you, I interrupted. I simply acknowledged your promotion along with others. You humiliated yourself with how you spoke to me earlier. The weekend passed in a blur of tense family discussions, revelations, and recriminations. My parents swung between pride in my accomplishments and hurt at being kept in the dark. Ethan alternated between anger, embarrassment, and a reluctant respect that he tried hard to suppress. By Sunday night, exhausted from the emotional marathon, we reached a fragile truce. Things would never be the same between us, but perhaps they could be better than before. Monday morning arrived with its own challenges. The office was buzzing with the revelation, though most people were professional enough not to mention it directly. I called Ethan into my office first thing, not as his brother, but as his CEO. We need to establish clear boundaries, I told him. At work, I am Gerard Foster, your CEO. Our personal relationship stays outside these walls. Are you firing me? He asked bluntly. No. You are good at what you do. The company benefits from your skills. But if you choose to stay, you need to understand there will be no special treatment, positive or negative, because we are brothers. Ethan nodded stiffly. I will need to think about whether I can work here now. Take the time you need, I said. The position is yours if you want it. After he left, I met with the board to address potential concerns about nepotism. I was transparent about the unusual situation, outlined the safeguards I had put in place to ensure fair treatment, and committed to additional oversight of any decisions involving Ethan. To my surprise, Ethan decided to stay. Leaving would be admitting defeat, he told me, when he announced his decision. Besides, no competitor can match my compensation package. I recognized the glimmer of the old Ethan in that statement, but there was something new there too, a grudging acknowledgement that I had built something valuable. The following months were a learning experience for us all. I started therapy to process the complex family dynamics and my role in perpetuating the secrecy. It helped me understand that while my reasons for keeping Nexus Core separate from my family had been valid, the extent and duration of the deception had been partially driven by my own unresolved issues. Ethan and I began the slow, awkward process of rebuilding our relationship, not as the golden child and the failure, but as two successful men with different paths and strengths. We started with occasional lunches outside the office, carefully avoiding work talk, instead rediscovering common interests and shared childhood memories. 3 months after the revelation, our parents suggested a family dinner. Unlike the tense comparison-filled meals of the past, this one felt different. My father asked detailed questions about Nexus Core's technology. My mother showed genuine interest in my upcoming product launches. Ethan, while still somewhat reserved, made an effort to acknowledge my accomplishments. I need to apologize, my father said as we finished dessert. We were so focused on the traditional markers of success that we failed to see you were pioneering your own path. I am sorry we did not support you the way you deserved. It was the validation I had stopped hoping for years ago. I accepted his apology with a nod too, moved to speak immediately. As for Ethan and me at work, we found a new professional equilibrium. He excelled in his role, and I was careful to ensure he received the same treatment as any other director. No better, no worse. His attitude toward team members improved, perhaps because he now understood that the CEO might hear about any mistreatment. A year after that fateful promotion party, Nexus Core was thriving, preparing for a possible IPO, and I was finally comfortable embracing my success publicly. The tech press eventually discovered the Williams-Foster connection, but by then it was an interesting footnote rather than a scandal. Looking back now, I realize that true success is not measured by job titles, company valuations, or family approval. It is found in staying true to your vision despite doubt from others, in building something meaningful that solves real problems, and in finding peace with your past while looking toward your future. The most valuable lesson I learned through this journey was that proving yourself should be for your own satisfaction, not for others' validation. I spent too many years haunted by my family's perception of me, when I should have focused entirely on building something I believed in. Has my relationship with Ethan been fully repaired? Not entirely. Some wounds leave permanent scars. But we have found a new foundation built on mutual respect rather than competition. He has shown genuine growth, becoming more supportive of others, and less fixated on hierarchy and status. As for my parents, they have made sincere efforts to understand and appreciate my path. They proudly tell their friends about Nexus Core now, though sometimes I catch them mentioning my college dropout status as part of an against-all-odds narrative they have created. Old habits die hard, I suppose. The company continues to grow, and I lead it with lessons learned from both my business journey and my family experiences. I strive to create a culture where different types of talent and various paths to success are recognized and valued. What would you do if you were in my position? Would you have revealed your identity sooner, or kept it hidden even longer? Have you ever been underestimated by family, only to prove them wrong in unexpected ways? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Subscribe for more real-life experiences and pass this video along to someone who needs to hear that success can look different than what others expect. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, the best revenge is not proving others wrong, but proving yourself right.